Respect is not something I talk about easily. It never was. People who know me understand that. I was never the player who spoke much on court. Never the one who showed what was happening inside. That was deliberate. That was survival. In tennis, the moment you show someone what affects you, they own you. So I kept everything locked away. The wins, the losses, the doubt, the fear, all of it stayed inside. But respect, real respect, that lived inside too. Quietly. For certain players who did something I couldn't dismiss. Who showed me something on a tennis court that stayed with me long after the match was over. At 69, I can finally say these things out loud. 5 players. 5 men who earned something from me that I didn't give easily. This is not about friendship, not about who I liked. This is about who made me understand the game differently, who made me work in ways I hadn't expected, who showed me what this sport actually demands when you strip everything else away. Jimmy Connors. Jimmy was everything I was not. Everything. He was loud where I was quiet. Emotional where I was controlled. He fought with the crowd, with the umpire, with himself, with anyone who would engage. I watched all of that from across the net, and I understood immediately, this man is dangerous. It kept crowds involved, kept matches alive, kept pressure on me in ways that pure tennis sometimes couldn't. Nani, I had to play my game perfectly while he was turning the entire stadium into something that worked for him. That is not easy to deal with. That requires a different kind of focus. Our matches were wars. The 1977 Wimbledon final, 5 sets over 3 hours. Jimmy clawed back from 4-love down in the 5th set. He was supposed to be finished. Anyone else would have been finished. Jimmy wasn't. He found something from somewhere, and suddenly, it was 4-all and the crowd was electric and I could feel the match shifting. I held on. I won. But I walked off that court with genuine respect for what he had just done. Most players in that position fold completely. Jimmy almost turned it around on the biggest stage in the world. What I respected most was that Jimmy never stopped believing. In any match, at any score, at any point in his career. That belief was not manufactured, it was real. And real belief, the kind that doesn't disappear when things go wrong, is one of the rarest things in professional sport. Jimmy Connors had it every single day he competed. I never took him lightly. Not once. Rod Laver. I never played Rod Laver in competition. He was from a different era, a different tennis entirely. But Rod Laver was the reason I understood what greatness actually meant before I ever stepped onto a professional court. My father showed me footage of Laver when I was young, and I remember watching it and not fully understanding what I was seeing at first. The game looked different, smaller rackets, different surfaces, different pace. But something came through even on that old footage. A completeness. A player who had no obvious weakness, who adjusted to everything, who found a way to win on any surface against any opponent in any condition. That was not normal. That was not something you could manufacture with hard work alone. That was the product of total dedication to understanding tennis as a complete game. 2 Grand Slams in the same year, twice. The second time as a professional, when open-era politics had kept him out of the majors for years. He came back and dominated all over again. I thought about that often during my own career. When things were difficult, when I doubted something, I reminded myself that Rod Laver had faced harder circumstances and found a way through. Not by complaining, not by making excuses, by being better than the obstacle. I met him several times later in life, and what struck me was his humility. No arrogance, no sense that he needed you to acknowledge what he had done. He already knew. That quiet confidence, knowing your own value without needing anyone to confirm it, that is something I recognized, something I tried to carry myself. Rod Laver showed me that standard was possible before I ever competed professionally. That shaped everything that followed. Ivan Lendl. Ivan and I overlapped at the very end of my career and the beginning of his, and I watched him develop into something that genuinely impressed me. Because what Ivan built, he built deliberately, methodically, with a patience and discipline that very few players in history have ever matched. Ivan decided what kind of player he wanted to be, and then he built that player from the ground up. The fitness, the baseline game, the heavy topspin that pushed opponents back, that took away their time. That turned rallies into physical tests that most people eventually lost. He didn't rely on natural talent alone. He engineered his game. And then he executed that game with a consistency that was almost mechanical. What I respected specifically was his mental approach. Ivan treated tennis like a problem to be solved. Every opponent had patterns. Every surface had requirements. Every match had a strategy. He studied, he prepared, he arrived ready. There was nothing emotional about it, and coming from me, someone who also believed in removing emotion from competition, I recognized that philosophy immediately. We approached the game from the same place, even if our personalities were different. 8 Grand Slams. World #1 for years. He dominated an era that included McEnroe, Connors, Wilander, all genuine champions. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens because someone decided what excellence looked like and refused to accept anything less. Even Lendl refused to accept anything less. Every single day. I have deep respect for that kind of commitment. Guillermo Vilas. Guillermo Vilas is someone the modern tennis world doesn't talk about enough. And that bothers me because what Vilas did on a clay court in the late 1970s was extraordinary. And I know extraordinary on clay better than almost anyone. We played many times, and playing Vilas on clay was unlike playing anyone else. The topspin was enormous, heavy, high-bouncing, relentless. He could sustain that level for hours, literally hours. The 1977 French Open, he won it without losing a set the entire tournament. That year, he won 53 consecutive matches. Of 53. I don't care what era you're talking about. That number is remarkable. That speaks to a consistency of performance that very few players ever reach. What I respected about Guillermo beyond the tennis was his relationship with the game itself. He loved it. Not the trophies, not the rankings, not the attention. He loved competing. He loved the physical and mental battle of a long clay court match. You could feel that when you played him. He was not suffering through difficult moments. He was thriving in them. That genuine love for competition is rare. Most players, when matches become painful and long and uncertain, something in them wants it to end. Guillermo wanted more. That attitude, that appetite for the battle itself, I respected it enormously. We were similar in some ways on the court. Both baseline players, both comfortable in long rallies, both difficult to break mentally. Our matches felt like two people having a very serious, very private conversation in front of thousands of people. No words, just tennis. just two players testing each other until one of us found the answer. John McEnroe. I know this surprises people. John and I were opposites in every visible way. He was chaos, and I was control. He argued, and I stayed silent. He made everything theatrical, and I made everything internal. People assumed we didn't respect each other because we were so different. They were wrong. I respected John McEnroe more than almost anyone I ever faced. And the reason is simple. His talent was the most natural I ever played against. Pete Sampras was great. Lendl was great. Connors was great. But McEnroe's tennis came from somewhere else entirely. The touch, the feel, the angles he created. Things that should not have been physically possible with a tennis racket. Volleys that landed in places you couldn't reach, even if you knew they were coming. Returns that turned your best serves into defensive situations. The man saw the court differently than the rest of us. Our Wimbledon final in 1980, that match still defines what tennis can be at its highest level. The fourth set, tiebreak, alone was 34 points. I won it 18-16. Back and forth, neither of us giving anything, both of us playing at a level I had never experienced before in any match anywhere. I won the match in 5 sets. But that fourth set, tiebreak, that belonged to both of us. That was two players refusing to lose, finding shots under pressure that training alone cannot explain. What I respected about John was that his tennis was honest. It came directly from who he was. He couldn't separate the emotion from the game because the emotion was the game for him. That passion, that fire, it produced tennis that no one else could produce. I was able to defeat him more often than not, but I never once felt I had found a formula for him. Every match felt like the first time. That unpredictability, that freshness, it came from genuine creativity. And genuine creativity in tennis is the rarest thing of all. At 69, when I look back at these 5 men, I see something consistent across all of them. Every one of them was completely himself on a tennis court. Jimmy with his fight, Laver with his completeness, Lendl with his discipline, Vilas with his love for the battle, McEnroe with his creativity. None of them were trying to be something they weren't. None of them were performing. They brought exactly who they were to the court every single day. I tried to do the same. The silence, the composure, the refusal to show anything, that was genuinely me. Not a strategy, not an image, me. And I think that is ultimately what separates the good from the truly great. Not technique, not fitness, not even talent. The willingness to compete as your complete, honest self with everything that involves and trust that it is enough. These 5 men trusted that completely, and tennis was better because of it.